Okay, so I want to start with some really kind of basic techniques, but the first thing I want to show you is, notice the way that my palette is set up in an order. This was supposed to be in there, but I couldn't find it, and then I did. But I like to try and set up the palette in a way that makes sense as far as mixing paint. So we'll go from yellows to blues to greens to reds to red violets, almost like a rainbow. Set it up like the order of a rainbow, because you want to be able to know where your paint is and access it. You always put your paint on the edge of the palette. Do not put it in here. Why? Because this is where you're mixing your paint. And if you have it set up like this, you become very familiar with where the paint is, and you come to a point where you don't have to really look for the color that you're using. I know that this is, even though they look alike, this is Phthalo Blue with a blue shade, and this is with a red shade. So I want you to be sure to set up your palette in that way. And I always use a glass palette because they're easy to clean. You scrape them with a paint scraper and they're great. So I'm going to be using several different kinds of mediums today to work with, and one will be a retarding medium which slows drying time with acrylics. And I am using all acrylic paint. This is the ketchup medium. No, this is actually a matte medium, but I love these ketchup bottles because you can get a lot in them, and the opening is wide, and they're kind of good for that. Acrylic, and I buy this by the gallons, so I like to have something sizable to put it in. And the acrylic glazing medium I'll also be using. I try to use a lot of Golden products because they come to the school often for us, almost every year, and they do demos, and I try and use that paint. But it is a really good quality paint. You want to buy good quality paint. Do not buy your art supplies at Walmart, at Target. That is not good paint. It hardly has any pigment in it, and you will be, what it takes to coat an area like this with yellow will take you 6 coats to get a yellow. When I use a Golden or Liquitex paint, it will take me 1 coat. So I want to talk to you about how to blend paint first of all, and there's many ways. So I'm going to start with kind of it's a technique that was used very much by, oh, and I want to tell you too, this was a brand new brush, so you need to soak it in water. You can't just take that hard, because they put a sizing on it, so you can't just take that hard bristle and start using it with paint. You have to let it soak in the water a little bit. Anyway, this is very much an impressionist technique, and I'm going to do a couple different things here to, I always put just a tiny bit of white into my yellows because it makes them a little more opaque. Ooh, that's yummy. I say yummy a lot, so I'm told. I'll use matte. Ooh. Well, I guess it's good, huh? Matte medium. This is this will dry very matte on the, and I'm just going to kind of use that as an under. It is very rare that I would ever start a painting with no color underneath. The reason being is that if you do that, what happens is when you come to an edge, it ends up being very, you'll see the white in between, and you don't want to see white in between. That's the first thing I kind of look for when I'm looking at artists' work is, do they know how to underpaint? Because underpainting is really important to know that you understand how paint is applied. You don't want a white edge around an object, ever. So I just kind of blended that. And I'm starting with a piece of Bristol board with a gesso on it already. And I never apply gesso in this manner, and you can, in like kind of I'm painting a fence manner. You can, but you're really going to see those lines. I pretty much always apply it like all over because I like the texture of it. If I wanted to get something that was very flat and very smooth, I would do exactly that. Sand it. Do this again. And I used to do that on enormous canvases because I did not want to see lines in the sky. Didn't want to see texture in the sky. I wanted it to be really smooth. So this is just a kind of a little bit of undercolor. Otherwise it takes forever, forever, not with so much with acrylics, but it does take a while. So something that the Impressionists did, the Impressionists used a brush often called a filbert brush. And it is in a very kind of specific shape. It's rounded on the outside edges. But if I was going to paint like an Impressionist painted, I would kind of blend by moving layers of paint in kind of strokes that laid on top of each other. And that is called impasto paint. When you do it with oils, the paint gets much thicker. You see my brush got a little dry there. And you can start to kind of blend color by doing exactly that, just laying brush strokes over each other. Gotta get it to dry again. So what if this got even a little bit later? This one tube of paint I had was really dried out, but so you can see you can kind of get it to blend across just by using strokes of sorry, sometimes it's hard to talk and paint. My brother always told me my brothers told me I couldn't chew bubble gum and walk at the same time. So anyway, you can learn to blend color just by layers, because that then starts to have like a chromatic blend across it. Another way to blend paint, which is primarily the way that I do, is to start with, I might as well just go for it here, huh? I use a lot of filberts when I'm painting. A lot. It's a very versatile brush, I think. So I am going to just lay down till it's a little cheaper paint. Can you see that? Can you see how? Put a little weight in it. I know this is, I just love the color so much I had to buy it. But you can tell it's a little bit cheaper paint because it does not cover as well. Do you see the brush strokes through there? This is just something I love to do though. I love scumbling, and it is see if I put more opaque white in there, it gets a little bit less. I'm practically scumbling now to blend that down through there. Gonna dry it again. So scumbling entails a very dry brush. So you can see I'm drying it out. But the thing that I love about scumbling into a piece of a painting or a piece of artwork is it allows the color underneath to show through. And that can be really beautiful. So it's kind of a good, and I love when you can start to see the brush strokes underneath that don't kill it. So that's a scumbling method that I think you'll end up using a lot to blend. Now it kind of looks like I'm looking through that. If I brighten that blue some, watch this. It's kind of fun. It looks like, and it starts to vibrate. Anyway, so these could be backgrounds for anything too. You know, you can just play with the paint in the background and you can make it do so many different kinds of things. I want to show you how to blend wet paint next. And that is going to take a few brushes. Which, I'm going to get clean one. That one's good. I have a bunch of new brushes. I didn't bring very many big ones out though. I kind of like these shapes. Okay, I'll use that. New brushes, like I said, they put a sizing in them and you need to get them loosened up. This one does not feel feels like it's not happy, like paint got left in it, which could well be the case. Okay, we'll use something else. Here we go. So I will use retarder to mix these. Oh, come on, this is a brand new one, it should work. Or maybe it still has a... It does, imagine that. Which I won't be able to get open. I also always have one of these here to poke holes in things I can make, because I'm not very patient, as you, I guess we'll see. My stupid nails are still too long. Okay. So retarder is the only thing that will slow down drying time with acrylic paint. And it still doesn't give you hours. It gives you minutes. So I will start by, whenever I was painting a lot of seascapes, I would look at the horizon, and I know you've all seen this, where it's really dark blue on top and it gets lighter as it comes down to the horizon line. So at that time, I really kind of learned to begin to blend those colors And I would actually use my hand. That's how particular I was at the time about being sure to not have any striation in the skies. Don't want that. Let's do this. This brush isn't even old, and look, that ferrule is already. Oh, come on. Struggling with brushes here. That brush doesn't like me either. I'll go to this one again. Okay. Some ultramarine in there. Retarder, Leslie. So I have white here with retarder in it and blue. So I will then pull that white up a little bit more with retarder in it, as I just pulled the blue down. And this is where it really helps to have a bunch of brushes going on. See if this one's softened yet. Yeah, it did. I already need more retarder out. It's a little bit too wet. Prefer more paint. A little more opacity in that blue, so I'm going to put a little white in it. There we go. Go back to the white. This is probably a little bit more advanced because it takes time to understand how to get it to work, but it's kind of beautiful whenever you really get it going. There we go. So hands are good for painting too. We'll call this finger painting. That's pretty cool. And I would probably let that dry and go back over it some and so that I couldn't see through it, but that's a beginning. So the other thing you can use also is a spray bottle to keep it wet. When you're working on a really large area, to try and do this, you have to have a spray bottle to keep it wet enough. So I would and use my hand. So that's another way to blend paint. And I want to talk to you about you. Tape is like your best friend, and I hope I brought my tape somewhere. It is. Tape is a really good thing to have in order to get really crisp edges. Okay, so I'm going to show you how tape is your friend real quickly. Put a little medium in here because it's a little stiff. Those are tape. The blue stuff is tape. And you really kind of have to use the blue tape because, or that frog tape or whatever you want, because it doesn't stick to your paper then. Clean that brush, clean that brush. It's kind of a cool color that ends up. This, more of that. Anyway, you can just kind of play with the color on top. And we'll get that to dry. Could be hideous, I don't know, we'll see. I use a lot of tape in my images, especially when I'm trying to just get a straight edge, because it's really challenging sometimes. And the brush that I most use for a straight edge is that angled brush. Because you can really drag that down and get the edges very, very crisp. I wanted to play with this a little bit too and show you. This is that coarse modeling paste. I don't think this is the best way to, there we go. And I kind of want to use, where did I put, this might work. Where can I put this? I guess I could put it. Why don't I mix it with some color first? Let's try that. So it's coarse modeling paste, and this, it will make your paint very thick and kind of sandy. And it's hard to get thick paint with acrylic. Look at that. Ooh, it kind of, on the glass, kind of makes shivery sounds. But it really lets you be able to add texture into there that you wouldn't normally. Be able to get with acrylics. I mean, there are heavier gels, but this is really heavy duty stuff. And I don't know if you can really see how much texture that's giving me on this piece, but it really is adding a lot of coarse texture to it. Some more paint. And then there's some more stuff we could probably do with that after it dries, but it's going to take a few minutes to dry. So I thought that maybe I would do some collage-y kind of things for you here and show you a couple other things that we can do with acrylics. And I guess maybe I'll do it here. I love this. I haven't used it yet, but I do love that. We could, maybe we want these smaller ones. Yeah, I think so. I did not bring a stenciling brush, but we're going to do our best with what we have here. So stencils are really fun, and you can actually cut your own stencils just with a piece of Mylar or a piece of plastic. I've been working on these 60s and 70s girls in some of my pieces, so I've been using lots of kind of daisy-ish things. And flowers, you know, flower children. Flower power. I moved it a little bit. That's not a good thing. And really, a stenciling brush is better just because it just kind of hits right down in there and it doesn't, it's flat. That's all right, yeah? Bring out a baby brush. This is one of my favorite, these are my favorite brushes made. These are called Escados. This is also an Escado, I believe. Yes. They are synthetic, but they don't feel synthetic. I don't know what they do differently. They're very pricey, but definitely worth the investment, I think, because they last a really long time. So stencils can be really a kind of fun thing to play with. And I just grabbed a bunch of things here from my studio. And we want all of that, a part of that. I kind of like it in there. This is an actual leaf. So matte medium is a great way to glue something down. And what you would want to do would be get it, I didn't really want that blue in there, where'd that come from? I know I seem like maybe to you that I'm just kind of laissez-faire, but you know, I've learned through printmaking and that the more you let go and let the accidents happen, the better your work becomes. And whenever you are going to glue something, you want to have the medium on the place where you're gluing. You want the medium on the thing that you're gluing. And you want medium, again, on top of what you're gluing. I like tearing things a lot, sometimes more than cutting, unless you want something very exact, because I like torn edges for some reason. It's just a little more organic, I think. So if we put that, kind of make decisions as we go here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dry this first. What might be kind of cool is to just take a dry brush and what color? Maybe some yellow. Just take a dry brush and I'm just going to kind of drag it to highlight some of this. It doesn't all have to be just towards the edges, and drag it in some. It's nice. The key to a really good painting is creating layers. It is absolutely essential to create layers, because it shows that you've built the painting, that you've allowed the painting to kind of instruct you into where it needs to be. Still a little wide. I'm going to take it down a little. So much for my torn edge, huh? I do a lot of collaging, especially because I'm a printmaker also. And I just like the layers of all that stuff that happens. And a lot of my paintings and big pastels, those are also collaged into it, because I see paper and I see fabric and I see things that I just love, and I'm like, why would I want to reproduce that when it's already there? I shouldn't have to. What do we think of that? I'm going to play with that a little. Oh, don't put something directly in the middle of the page. Isn't that one of my design things? Not sure that I hate it though there, to tell you the truth. And I'll brighten some of those flowers. Oh, look, it's got a little blue on there. I kind of like that. Remember I said those accidents that can be really happy. My friend Ms. Kramer, who used to teach printmaking at RCC, used to say that all the time. Happy accidents. Up there. I think maybe. And then I think I would probably want to pop some of those little flowers out again. Just to get some balance back into the composition. Put them on top of that leaf maybe. Okay, I'm going to dry that and I'm going to cut these apart maybe and then show you another kind of couple things that I know. So we'll be back, take a little break, and we'll be back in a minute. Thank you. Hi. There's just a couple other little technique-y things that I'd like to show you. I want to remind you too that when you're working in acrylics that you always, 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 always leave your brushes in the water because they will not be happy with you if you don't. Anyway, I am mixing up a very, very wet acrylic here. God, don't you love that color? It's called green gold. And I just wanted to show you, you probably have already done this, like in school. I don't know. But this is so fun to me. Almost looks like a hand. Everything I do turns into a figure. And by the way, what's underneath here is where I put that leaf and just a couple places where paint dripped. But it's kind of fun just to let the paint do something it wants to do. You know, just to play. I want you all to learn to play with paint because it takes all the intimidation away. You know, all of the, boy, I need clean water. All of the fear and intimidation. I remember one time, one of my very first painting classes, I had a canvas and I couldn't, I had all these sketches and I was all, you know, of course a figure. And this was my very first painting class and I said, he's like, so you've got all your sketches, what's going on? And I'm like, I'm terrified. And he's like, Leslie, you have to know that on that canvas in front of you is everything in the universe. And all you have to do is find it. It's already there, just find it. So this is a way to kind of just find it, I think. So I'm going to dry that. So that is pretty cool, I think. I love just letting things do what they do and allowing things to happen, and it's kind of fun. Not kind of fun, it's really fun. So the last but not least, certainly not least, little thing, oh, I know what I wanted to show you too. Wait. Oh. I do not brush my teeth with this today. But my husband bought me a new table and I've already messed it all up, I'm sure. Do you hear Scooter over there going under? He hides under my printer. I'm not sure what that's about, but this will work with a stiff brush too. Don't do it in your mom's living room though. You know, like I'm doing it in my office, but spattering is really fun. You have to have a really stiff brush though, and a toothbrush works great. And last but not least, I'm going to create a universe for you. What do you think about that? Or as I'm taking an anatomy class right now, and he keeps saying, how do you like them apples? I think it's very funny. So how do you like them apples? This kind of has to be pretty opaque to make this little thing work here. And those of you that were in my painting class, I know you already know how to do this, but you know me, I like it messy. I can't wait to put something on this. I mean, I'm not sure what it'll be, but I don't know. Might be that Flutterby. Okay, I'm going to just let this dry slightly. I'm going to grab a paper towel. I'm going to get my toothbrush again. Take my paper towel. I hope you can see that. But what I would do then, let me see about the teeny weeny brush here. Yes, I do. I would go back in and kind of, because you see the dots of the paper towel. It's better, the paper towels at school are better because they don't have the texture in it. Make some of these brighter. And sometimes I'll make a comet or a shooting star. A planet. Anyway, Fun with Paint by Leslie Brown. So this is kind of the end of the techniques I want to show you, and I'm going to move things around, get clean water, and I'll be back to show you how to apply some of this in just a little painting. Okay, thank you. See you soon.